Hello, philosophers. We are now at the fifth episode of On Writings. Today, we are tackling a serious topic the end of something. But first, how can you say it's the end? What is the end? What even is the end? These questions will be answered momentarily. When you hear the word end, it may pertain to something that stopped, a deadline, no continuity, a limitation, finality, or conclusion, but most likely associated with the first thing that comes to your mind death. Philosophically, the end is quite ambiguous. In Aristotle's teleology, the end is a purpose or goal, like the end of a knife is to cut fruits. Some traditions, like Buddhism, see the end as liberation, an end to suffering, not existence itself. But my main concern is on the personal level. That sometimes the end isn't a final moment, but a transformation into something different. This reminds me of a butterfly undergoing metamorphosis. And you know who has a book called The Metamorphosis? Yes, Franz Kafka. Well, not this Kafka. Franz Kafka delves into such end themes in his book. First, the end of identity. Like Gregor's transformation into an insect symbolizes the collapse of his human identity. Second, the end of relationships. At first, his family tolerates his condition out of obligation, but gradually their affection dies, replaced by disgust and alienation. Third, the end of purpose. After becoming an insect, Gregor's purpose in life also ends. Fourth, the end of life. The book concludes his quiet, almost unnoticed death, treated not as tragic, but as relief for his family. Harsh. So, what can we learn here? The Metamorphosis portrays ends not as noble conclusions, but as breakdowns of purpose, relationships, and identity. Endings are transformations, not just stops. It challenges the traditional moral idea of telos, the good end, by showing how ends can be meaningless, conditional, and absurd. In Kafka's world, endings don't necessarily reveal higher meaning. They expose how fragile and contingent our chosen ends really are. Mind you, there is what we call from our morals class the end of human act. The end is that toward which an action tends. That is the nature of the end. Every human activity tends towards the direction of an end, be it a purpose, aim, goal, and mission. Any human act with knowledge of the mind and consent of the will pursues an end which is good for the whole human being. Now, just for additional info, end is distinguished into four, but it goes a little bit far from our topic, so I'll just flash it on the screen here for you guys. Now, the question is still, when is the end? Maybe when you die, when the world ends, the big crunch, the end of relationships, losing a job, when you fulfill something, or maybe no end at all. Sometimes it is up to you. Sometimes it's the universe. But I advise you four important things that I noticed. You shouldn't dictate other people's relationship to end. Don't let other people end you. Don't end yourself. And don't end others. Rather, not using people solely as means to an end, but rather respecting their inherent value and treating them as ends in themselves. Immanuel Kant, have I made you proud? The end nearly comes, and it tells you when. All we can do is wait and be patient, because you can't end everything in a jiffy. The end is when it is right. But really, how can you say it's the end? Or rather, not the end? For me, as long as there are constant truths, constant realities not signaling an end, then life keeps on going. The end can sometimes hurt in most cases, and sometimes the end is unreasonable. But as long as there are constant proofs of no ends, then you keep on thriving. If there are much more reasons to live and continue, keep on fulfilling, because you still have a greater purpose. True end comes from an absolute certainty of duty. The goodness in which we fall into consideration be therefore acknowledged to an extent that it becomes an ultimatum. Ernests Gerard. Do not fret, because ends aren't necessarily continuous loops, but it offers a sense of change and renewal, a series of new beginnings. Not always should be the end, not always is the end. Just ending it ain't the solution. To justify the means of an end, must first confide to begin with. This marks a call. As long as we see hope shine and possibility lights up, let us not reason with an end. Now that's my ultimatum. Ka end.